Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. I need you guys to smash that like button. We're starting a new series where I will guide you guys step by step as a beginner from knowing nothing about FL Studio to making different styles of beats. In this video, we're going to go for more of a synthetic hip hop approach. Some people call it plug, but we're not going to categorize it that way. We're just going to say more of a synthetic melodic style hip hop. All right, let's hop into FL Studio. First thing you need to understand is that you can get overwhelmed with everything you could do in FL, so just try to limit what you pay attention to in FL Studio. FL Studio really comes down to these 5 buttons right here. This is, if you click this button, this is called the playlist. This is like a canvas where you add all the puzzle pieces. Here we have what's called the piano roll. This is where we add melodic notes, and I'll show you guys how to do that. Nextly, if you click this 3rd button here, this is the channel rack. This is where we add our drum sounds for the most part. This button here is called the mixer. This is where I can turn off effects on my vocals, or I could, redo effects or whatever. Okay, you could do that in the mixer. And over here is called the browser. Okay, where we find sounds. So just focus on these 5 buttons. Whenever you're confused about FL Studio, it comes down to these 5 buttons. Everything else is really just there. Okay. Now let's say you don't even see these 5 buttons. Go to where it says view, go to arrange windows, and then go to realign. That should fix whatever issues you're having with your interface there. All right, guys, so now let's get to the melody. Let's go to our playlist. All right, let's go to the playlist, which is this button here. Then we're going to go to song mode. Very important to switch to song mode. This plays stuff from the playlist. If you have it on pattern mode, it will play stuff from what's called the channel rack. So when it comes to making real beats, it comes down to 4 components. I'll say components instead of layers. What we can do is right click here on track 1 and rename this. Let's name this top line. So the top line melody is your memorable melody. This is the thing that everybody knows, okay? The next layer is the harmony. This is your chords in the track, the glue to the track. And chords are defined as when you play 2 notes or more at the same time, in my definition. Nextly is the 3rd component here called the contrast component. This is where we add the bass and the counter melodies. On track 4, we're going to call this rhythm. Okay, because this is where we're going to add our drums and our rhythmic stuff. Now, I'm going to give you guys the whole formula since you guys dedicated yourself to the series, so we might as well give you the formula here. You can layer each one of those 4 components. So let's right click and rename this top line expression. Now, some people may be asking, why not just get straight to sound selection and all this? But if you don't comprehend the 4 components of your song, you're never going to understand the purpose of a sound. Okay, so top line expression, we're going to right click here, call this harmony expression, and I'll show you guys how to do all this stuff. On the 3rd one, let's type it contrast expression. Also, too, I'm going to give you guys the project files for free. Just go to BusyWorksBeats.com, sign up for free. Then we have the rhythm expression here. So now we're at 140 BPM. We could turn on what's called the metronome. If you hit spacebar, you'll be able to hear the metronome. What I recommend, though, is that you right click and switch this to pulse. I've noticed that pulse is more accurate on the downtime. If you right click and have it set to tick, I feel like there's a small time delay and it's not perfectly on the grid. Okay, whereas pulse is very on the grid. Just a little tip there. Also turn on where it says countdown before recording. Turn on where it says blend recording, overdub, and turn this little link thing on, and then turn this little typing keyboard. This allows you to type using your QWERTY keyboard and play notes straight in FL Studio. All right, now that we have all the stuff laid out, let's figure out how to create sounds. Let's go to our channel rack here. And this is why I set up what we set up. Pardon me, because if you don't know the purpose of a sound, there's no point in picking sounds. Okay, so let's go to the channel rack. Click this plus icon. Let's load up a plugin called, I recommend you guys keep this on simple, not tree or categories. So this is called the plugin picker, and I recommend you guys keep this on simple so you can just see everything. What we're going to do is pick a plugin called, we have so many options here. Let's go to the plugin called Morphine. This is a really good plugin. Even if you don't have the full version, it's worth learning it. Okay, so here we can click this window to open up what are called the presets. Presets are like pre-made sounds for us. So we're going to click here and let's go to the keyboard sounds. And let's just click at the top here where it says accordion. Now what I can do is I could turn on my controller here, my MIDI controller. I could turn on my piano and I can control this sound. And that's loading up right now. So I'll show you guys how to. Okay, so it's loading up. So what we want to do is create one of these things, a top line, a harmony, a contrast, or a rhythm. So we need to decide, what are we going to do with this plugin? Our goal right now is to create the harmony section. Okay, because this will create the glue to the track. Let's right click in our channel rack, go here, right click, go to piano roll. Some things I recommend you guys do as beginners, go to the top left where it says piano roll options, go to view, go to key labels, and make sure all notes is on. This will make sure that you guys can see everything. Okay. Also go to view in the piano roll options, make sure ghost channels is on. This is more of a future proofing thing. You don't need to worry about that right now. Okay. So now we have a sound. We can now draw in with the pencil tool some notes. I'd recommend you guys change your snap to grid to 1/2 beat, and I'm at 140 BPM, which is the project BPM. Again, you guys will get the project files for free at busyworksbeats.com. So let's build our first chord. What is a chord? A chord is 2 notes or more. So let's add a note here, D, and let's add a note 7 notes up from here. So how do we do it? Hit Control to highlight this note, hit Shift, left click to duplicate the note, and then hit Shift up 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is called the perfect fifth. You don't need to get too deep into music theory. Basically, these always work together, okay? So now that we have sound, what I'd recommend you guys do is go back to the playlist and grab your paint tool this time, change your snap to grid to bar mode, left click and add the harmony in. Now what I do by habit is I just drag this out for like 8 bars because I want to hear my music as I am building it. Let's go to song mode up here and then just hit space bar. So all we have is this one chord. Now what you could do is double click in here to open up that pattern that we just drew. Now the sound is horrendous. So let's go to the channel rack, go back to Morphine, and let's just cycle through sounds here. This is a pretty cool sound here. So let me again show you guys the steps. Double click, click on the playlist here, double click on the pattern. Okay, so now we have these 2 notes of D and A. Now what we're gonna do is take A, hit Control, hit Shift, left click to duplicate it, hit Control down. That will pull that note down an octave. So now we basically have the same note in 2 different octaves. Okay, let's hit Control, left click to highlight, and now let's add some rhythm to these chords. Now my ear wants to hear. Okay, so that's what my ear wants to hear. So let's just hit Shift, left click, pull that chord over. And then let's hit Shift again, and then make sure that top note is D. And now we're gonna make sure this chord ends right at the bar. If your chord overlaps by a little bit, grab the slice tool, hit Shift, right click, and that will cut off any of the excess that goes over that bar. It's important because if FL even has like a small little bit over the bar, it will continue to loop. Watch. See how it just keeps going? Okay, whereas if we cut that little tiny piece, it will loop perfectly. So make sure you guys cut the length there. Remember, we're in song mode, so we don't have to worry about that. So let's go to song mode. All right, so we're building what's called a harmony or a chord progression. Let's double click in here. All we got to do now is just kind of create changes. So let's hit Control, highlight these, hit Shift, left click, and pull this around. Let's hit Control, highlight these, hit Shift, left click. I recommend you guys keep the metronome on until you guys have all your notes down. Now I want my ear to go, duh. So let's pull this down an octave, Control down. So it's the same thing, just in a different octave. Now let's add a little spice to it. Let's click our channel rack here. Let's go back to Morphine in this case and change out the sound. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you guys like kind of advanced stuff, but I might as well. We're gonna get rid of the browser for a second. So notice how I'm in the piano roll, it's full screen. There's no way you guys can make melodies in this tiny screen. So anytime I'm in the piano roll, I'm gonna double click the edge to make this full screen. Okay, let's go all the way back. Hit stop twice to go all the way back. Okay, what we can do is actually slide notes. I have a more advanced technique, but for now we're gonna use the basic technique. So let's take this top note, count down 5 notes. Let's do that again. Hit Control to highlight it, hit Shift, left click to duplicate, hit Shift down 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to double click this note and make it what's called a slide note. So basically this A will slide to this E. Hit accept. Now we need to give it a length. Let's make this length like half the length. So now it goes, okay. Now the thing is, all of these notes will slide to this note. So let's do that same formula. Take this note, make sure it's 5 notes down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and we can just duplicate this. Let's just hit Control, hit Shift Control to deselect or select individual notes. Hit Shift, left click. Whoops. Control Z undoes stuff if you guys mess up. Hit Shift, left click, and just drag this over. Okay, we want to give this chord progression a little more humanization. Let's go to where it says Tools here. Let's go to where it says Humanize. And what we want to do here is we're going to set the duration range down. So I'm going to turn everything down here to 0, except for the velocity range. We're going to turn this up a little bit. So what this is going to do is randomize the velocities, meaning how hard I hit a key. And that will give it a little more breathing energy. It just will feel a little more real. Okay, now let's go to the mixer. Let's add a couple effects. Let's go to the channel rack here. We're going to just get rid of the sampler. Just right click, hit D to delete. If you don't see this little dash here, hit Alt M on your keyboard to hide or reveal that. Hit Control L. This will send this sound to the mixer and name it for you. So hit Control L and it will name it whatever the plugin is named. Now on Morphine, we're going to go to the mixer here, this icon, and let's go to slot 1 here. Let's open up what's called Hyper Chorus. This is going to give it more of a smeary sound. So now we have a vibe on the sound. Let's go back to the playlist and start mapping this out. So let's say we want this to continue. So let's go to the playlist, make sure your snap to grid is on bar mode, hit Control, so that we can highlight just this pattern. We're going to use a shortcut called Command B or Control B, pardon me, if you're on PC. This only works if it's perfectly at the bar. Like I showed you guys how you have to cut that extra little tail off a note. Same thing here with patterns. If you have any bit over this bar, it will not do this right. This is called latch pasting. Very different than paste. So we're going to highlight this, hit Control B to latch paste this throughout your song. We don't want a bunch of chord changes in this type of vibe. I'm going to go back to the plugin here and go to the channel rack, go to Morphine. Sometimes plugins have effects inside the plugin. Here we see the chorus is turned on. Let's just turn that off so that we don't have 2 choruses playing over top of each other. All right, now we need, so this is why I said it's not about the sound, it's about the purpose of the sound. This is our harmony section. Okay, so that sound was specifically built to play chords. Now let's go to what's called the contrast layer. Over here, this is our pattern picker. We can left click or we could just right click, find first empty. I use this a lot. So right click, find first empty, and it will find an empty channel rack. So now we're going to add another instrument and let's go for a plugin like Sawer, S-A-W-E-R. So if you go to presets, go to leads, go to analog funk. This one's really good, but the secret is you have to click where it says image line. This will open up the effects. Don't ask me how I found this out, but then you basically click where it says delay and just turn it off. So now basically what I could do, that was my keyboard. We set up my MIDI controller. So let's say you want to use your MIDI controller like I do. You go to options, go to MIDI. Here where it says input, you're going to select your MIDI controller, assuming that you have it plugged into your computer. Hit refresh devices, hit refresh device list and hit enable, and that will turn on your MIDI controller. So now I can play the bass with my actual MIDI controller. Okay, so this bass sounds really good when it's pitched down. What I recommend you guys get used to is controlling the volume of sounds from the channel rack. Let's go to the channel rack and turn up what's called the channel volume. So this is a great place to control volume before you go to the mixer, because in the mixer, people don't use faders properly. Let's hit Control L, send this to the mixer. So now it's in the mixer. So if we need multi-tracks for like when you guys sell beats or whatever, you need to make sure you can separate the individual sounds. If the sound is not sent to its own mixer channel, it will just export as the master. Therefore, they won't have access to the multi-tracks. So be sure you guys have all your sounds routed to the mixer. Let's go to song mode. Go to the channel rack. And now we're just going to play the same exact thing, but just down an octave. So we have A sharp, D. So what, you guys could copy and paste, but it's not going to feel the same. This is why I'm going to play it by hand. So let's show you a technique. Let's go to song mode. Make sure you guys are in the playlist. Double click into your harmony layer. Hit Control Shift, and then we're going to highlight these notes here. So the reason we're doing this is because we're going to copy and paste this over to the bass. So we have all these notes highlighted. Hit Control C to copy. You can only copy and paste notes from the piano roll into another piano roll. So we have to go to our new pattern. Okay, so let's find our new pattern that we created, which is pattern 2. Right click and go to piano roll first, then hit Control V. If you try to hit Control V from the channel rack, it will not work. Watch. It doesn't work. It only works when you go into the piano roll. Let's drag pattern 2 into the contrast layer. I'm going to call this contrast. So basically, if you don't see this little plugin area over here, you need to update your FL Studio. Or if you did update, go to the top left where it says playlist options, go to picker panel and make sure this is turned on. Okay, we're going to left click and drag this in. So now we have the contrast layer, which is the bass. Now we need to drop this down an octave because it's not low enough. So double click, hit Control A, hit Control A to select all the notes, hit Control down to transpose it down an octave. All right, now let's go back to the playlist here. We need to copy and paste the contrast the same way we did the harmony section. Let's hit Control, highlight this, hit Control B to latch paste, then hit spacebar to play. Okay, so let's say I want to record another bass line. What I'll do is I'll just right click to delete the pattern. And notice I'm separating everything on its own pattern. I don't have bass stacked with chord, stacked with melody on one pattern. That's a very bad habit because when you go to arrange, it will be very, very difficult to arrange. Let's right click here. Let's go to Find First Empty, hit enter. So notice I'm separating all the ideas into different patterns. So now I'm going to record a bass, but this time I want to record it with my own playing. So what I'll do is I'll go back one bar to give me some time. I'll hit record. Make sure you right click your record button and turn on automation, notes, audio clips, audio and clips. This will make sure you record everything. Okay. And basically when the program will listen for me playing my actual keyboard. Okay. So let's hit record. And then when I hit play, I can freestyle with the notes. So let's hit spacebar to start recording. Also, when you record, make sure you turn on the metronome. Very important if you don't have drums. All right, so there's a lot more detail with that bass. First thing we're going to do is left click the edge here and just get rid of that little gap that was in the beginning of the waiting time that we had. You could just left click and drag. We're going to also drag this down to where it says contrast so we know the purpose of the sound. Let's double click in pattern 3 here. First thing I need to do is quantize these notes. You don't want to quantize everything. Don't get in the habit of quantizing everything. It's only because I have a very specific purpose for this sound. What I'll do is I'll right click any notes that are incorrect. So let's right click that note, for example. Nextly, I'm going to change my snap to grid to 1/2 beat and hit Control Q. That will quantize the notes. And any gaps that I have or any overlapping, let me see if I can find any. Let's say this note is like this. What we can do is hit Control L to fill in every single gap. So let's say this is like this, and then this is overlapping right here. If I hit Control L, this note will be filled in all the way, and then this note will be pulled back. Okay, so let's hit Control L, and that will fix any gaps that we have or overlaps. So that's important for some stuff. You don't want to get in the habit of always using Control L. That's only because I had very specific purpose for this bass, okay? Because I don't want it to, like if I overlap notes, the sound goes away, so you can't hear my other notes. Okay, so now we have this. Now we have a little more expression in the bass. So what I'll do to arrange this is drag it over here. And we'll call that like contrast 2. So when people ask me to arrange, sometimes we just need to do more stuff or change out the notes. Let's take this first bass, hit Control B. So consider this like part A, and then this is part B over here. So the way I highlighted that is I hit Control, left click this top bar to select an area. And you can hit Control, left click to get rid of it. Okay, so now we need our top line and our rhythm. Before we get to the top line, let's go back to our harmony section. I think we could do a lot of stuff with this. So let's double click in the harmony section and let's see what we could do with these slide notes. So I'm going to left click a slide note. FL Studio remembers the last note you clicked. It remembers all the properties of that. So if it's a slide note, it will make, anytime you click again, it will be a slide note. If I click this note, it will not be a slide note. So FL Studio remembers whatever you clicked last. Let's add some notes in here to create a vibe. So let's add a little, and let's try just doing really weird slide notes. So now we have like a wow type of sound. We don't want to overdo that effect. Okay, so let's highlight this, hit Shift, left click, drag it over. So now the sound is expressing more than just being heard. Let's highlight these sounds up top, hit Control, highlight these. Let's hit Alt, left click, and make these smaller. So Alt is how you basically get off the grid and nudge stuff around. Hit Alt and then left click the edge. So now this slide note basically pulls all the notes up to that note in this amount of time. You can also highlight all the notes on one note. If you hit Control, left click, you can highlight all the notes horizontally this way. And you could also drag to highlight like that. So that's almost like a sound effect. It just makes the sound feel a little more active. If we click inside of Morphing, we could also swap out the sounds. Let's take off the chorus effect and the reverb. See how it just makes it more active? Let's keep going through sounds here. Let's take off of these effects. Kind of like the sound. See how the beat is bouncing without doing anything? So I turn the delay on and the reverb just to keep that delay tail going. So it's like ta, ta, ta in the background. Okay, so, you know, when people ask me like how to get more energy, sometimes it's just those little tricks I showed you guys. Now let's create a top line. Let's go to a new pattern, right click, go to Find First Empty. Let's add another plugin here. And you don't always need like some super bright sound to make a top line. For this type of beat though, we're gonna go more synthetic sound. So let's go to GMS. We're just gonna go through sounds here. But before we do all that, let's hit Control L Go to the channel rack, make sure this is in the mixer, hit Control L. This will send it to the mixer, so we could add effects in the mixer. Now what we need to do, there's a lot to explain here, so I got to be kind of short. If you guys want to learn music theory, go to busyworksbeats.com. Look for our Music Theory Essentials course. It will guide you through music theory and melody making. Really, though, let's just give you guys a technique. Double click in your harmony, and let's look at where we started. We started at the note D. So that's our root note. So let's go to pattern 4 here, double click. We're in GMS, remember. If you're not in GMS, click here and just go to GMS. Now we're going to start at D. Okay, so what we want to do is double click, make sure the slide note thing is turned off. Also, you guys can see this is going over the bar. Hit Control L, that should fix it. Left click on the note so it remembers the even length. Okay, so we have the note D. So let me give you guys 7 notes that always work. Take the root note, in this case D, hit Shift, pull this up 7 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Take the root note again, clone it, pull it up 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take the root note again, and then add a note above what's called the 5th, which is 7 notes up, and a note below. It's called the sharp 5th, flat 5th. We're going to take the root note again, hit Control, hit Shift, and we're going to add a note above the root note and below. So all these notes, all 7 of these notes are usable for our melody. Let's turn the velocity down. If you don't see the velocity, grab the ellipses here, left click, pull this up. Go to where it says Control, go to Note Velocity, and this is where these notes are. Let's left click and pull it to the side as a reference, just so we have it. And left click at D and then hit Alt, left click to restore the velocity in the velocity window down here. Okay, so we're not worried about the sound, just the melody here. So what we can do is just go through any of these 7 notes and it will always sound good. So I'm going to go from the root note up 7 notes and then up 1 note. So it's root note, 7 notes up, 8 notes up. And the last note can literally be anything. So let's just kind of duplicate just to show you guys. I don't even need to hear the melody to know it's good. Just going to copy this over and give it different endings here. Okay, let's go back to the playlist mode and drag this out so that we can actually hear the 4 bars. So I was just showing you guys you could literally pick any notes in that 7 note cycle. Highlight this, let's hit Control B, because we just want to hear it all the way through. Now let's go back and switch out the actual sound. Let's go to GMS in the channel rack here. Go to GMS, just click on it to pull it up. Change the bank out. Let's go to... Let's just go to I don't know, let's click where it says Wise Labs and let's go to Synth. Just go through sounds here. We want sounds that don't clash. Remember, our harmony section is also doing almost like a melody. So we got to be careful not to overly fill the beat here. This is a cool sound. So what I did is I went to echo and I hit glue to turn it off. Let's keep going through sounds there. Actually, this sound is cool. This is called Synth Basic Super Saw under Wise Labs. So let me show you guys a couple things you could do. You could double click inside of pattern 4. You could highlight your notes, hit Control and left click the highlight. You'll see this little arrow on the right side. Anytime you have an even amount of notes, you could hit Alt, left click, and just drag it to half the length. This will speed up the melody. Or you could do it even faster, which I doubt is going to sound good. It kind of sounds good. Let's left click, hit Shift, left click to duplicate this. Let's go back to the harmony though, and let's take out that meow because it's distracting. So let's take out this high note, hit Control. Highlight that, hit Control X. Let's just remove some of these slides. It's just too much sliding going on. So we're going to right click. Let's go back to the pattern 4. Let's go inside of GMS and let's tweak a couple things. I might just change the melody to where it was before, a little more slowed. But let's tweak this a little bit. Let's add what's called the cutoff filter. So now we have a more tamed sound. It's not as bright. So basically I went to the cutoff filter under cutoff, or excuse me, the cutoff filter under the filter tab, turn the cutoff down, and I increased the attack and decay a little bit, or actually just the attack under the envelope for the filter. You don't need to know what this means. And I turned the amount down just so it wasn't as bright. Let's also go back to the morphine sound and maybe we can find a better sound that fits this vibe. Anytime you want to control the volume, look at the channel volume right here and just move that. You can also click this cog icon and quickly turn it down with this volume knob. So we're trying to find a sound that texturally just matches. This feels cool. Okay, so now we need to level sounds because everything's trying to be loud right now. Let's go to the mixer and just start turning down things that are just. I feel like this is a better feel to it. Okay, so at this point, let's add some rhythm here. Let's go to our channel rack. Let's go to pattern 5 or just right click, go to find first empty. And now we need some drums. So drums are the one weak spot in my opinion, from the FL stock sounds. So you guys are gonna have to spend a day or two to just go out and find drum sounds. I will provide the project files so you'll get the drums for free. Just go to busyworksbeats.com. So I have a folder of my go-to drums. And like I said, just spend 1 to 2 days and just look for drum sounds anywhere on the internet. You just wanna collect these. So let's give you guys a good kick. I have a new pack coming out called Blueprint. And it's going to be at busyworksbeats.com. Let's open up some of the sounds from Blueprint here. Let's go to, it comes with one shots, drum breaks, kicks, snares, hi-hats, all that type of stuff. But there's one kick called The Weekend that's so heavy. Let's right click, open a new channel, and let's find a snare. Right click, open a new channel. Let's find a hi-hat. Right click, open a new channel. Let's highlight these sounds in the channel rack and then hit Control L. So when it comes to drums, you need a kick, snare, hi-hat. And if you want to go 808, you could, but we already filled the contrast area. So that would be where an 808 would go. Let's go to pattern 5. Let's click over here somewhere and then right click and fill each 2 steps for the hi-hat. Let's add the pattern into the song mode, hit Control V to latch paste. Now make sure it's 4 bars. Sometimes it's 3 bars. You guys got to go back and just add another hi-hat over here and do the same technique. Right click, fill each 2 steps. So now we're going to turn the metronome on. And every time the metronome hits, consider this a count or a beat. So we're going to add the snare on the 3 and the 7 count. 1, 2, snare, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So as you guys can see, the snare goes on the 3 and the 7 for trap. Now to add the kick, we're going to do what's called tresillo. So it's ta, 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 ta. So you could do kick, ta, 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 kick, ta, ta, blank. Kick. You could just switch it up. So let's do the second. Ta, 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 kick. Ta, ta, blank, kick. Let's turn the metronome off. Okay, so now we need to level because everything's trying to scream and be loud. Let's go to the channel rack, turn up the snare. If the snare doesn't hit hard enough, click in the snare here, go to where it says pre-computed effects, turn up what's called the boost. Don't be afraid to turn stuff up in FL. Okay, so you see how the bass becomes repetitive after a while. So let's take out that first bass because it just becomes repetitive. And here's where we're gonna add the 808. So we're not gonna fully mix yet, but let's right click, go to where it says find first empty, and let's grab an 808. Let's grab the what's called the spins 808. Let's right click, open a new channel. You guys look at the project files for free. I think this one has like a click at the end, so let me just fix it for you guys. This is arbitrary beyond the scope of the video. I'm just fixing the click for you guys so it doesn't click at the end. Okay, so what we want to do here is hit Control L, send it to the mixer. So we're going to play the 808. This is a tonal 808, so you could play it just like you would a bass. So I'm going to play it by hand just to save time here, but we're going to play the root note D. You could go up a half step. It's the same formula as the melodic notes, okay? But the main thing around bass is you either play, let me show you guys the piano roll here. Now for the bass, I usually go root note, half step for tension, just to switch it up, root note. And then if I want to like jump around, I'll go 7 notes from the root note, which is called the 5th. And then sometimes the sharp 5th. So if I want to like jump around, I'll do stuff like that. Okay, so it's up to your style, but that's how I do it. Let's go here. Let's record it by hand. I just like it because it gives me more energy in the track. Let me actually Control Z that thing because what I want to do is follow the kick timing mostly. So it's kick, 3, C, yo, kick, 3, C, blank, kick. Okay, so I'm going to follow that pattern. So I switched it up a little bit to add a little more bounce. Let's double click in here, and all we got to do is just hit Alt Q this time. Alt Q, think of it like a lighter quantize, whereas Control Q, it quantizes to your snap to grid value perfectly. So I like to hit Alt Q when I play stuff by hand, just so it's not super aggressive. Now you guys can see where it says template, mine is set to MPC 50. So let's go to the folder here, click the drop down. Let's go to score, and let's go to quantize. We have to find the patch called default. You can avoid this if you don't use templates. By default, you're not going to have to do all those steps. Okay, let's turn the start time up, sensitivity up, hit accept. And then it's going to switch to the other bass. I feel like this should be lower. Let's click in here, double click, hit Control down. It needs more like aggression on it. I feel like this bass is just not the vibe anymore. It was fun, but let's right click and get rid of it. Let's let this 808 ride all the way through. Let's hit Control B. So let's make something different about this 808. Let's click here in the top left where it says make, in the top left where this piano is, and let's go to make unique. This will duplicate everything we did over here, and it will make it a separate pattern. So if we change stuff about this, it won't affect this basically. So now what I'm going to do is go in and record some notes. So I'm going to add little ghost notes in between. So instead of boom, 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 I'm going to go boom, 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 something like that. I'm just going to add little notes in here. So I'm going to record this. Just realized I recorded on the wrong sound here. So let's go to the channel rack. Make sure we're on the actual 808 so that it records into that, because it recorded into the other bass. So let's hit record again. So I just added little jump notes in here. So if we double click, I'll show you guys what I added here. I added this little boom, ba-boom, boom. So similar to boom bap, how it's like a ba-boom. I did the same thing for the 808. So these notes are a little bit lighter. So it goes like ba-boom, boom, ba-boom, like that. And it jumps in volume and it creates a nice bounce. So I call these ghost notes. We're going to hit Alt-Q to quantize these in. Sometimes it messes with the duration of your notes. So I'm going to pull back where it says duration because I don't want it to shorten the note in this case. Say accept. So it's like da-doom, da-doom, doom, doom, da-doom. That's the small little note here at a lower velocity. And that's the only switch up I made here. So let's go all the way back. Turn this into a trap banger. See how it sounds like we're just repeating ourselves at this point? So here's where something has to change. Either the bass changes, the top line changes, or the harmony changes. Instead of thinking of changes, we can add what are called expression layers. So these are things that exaggerate what's happening. And again, the goal is to categorize accents that we're adding to the beat. So let's go here to the channel rack here. Here's where we get a little more free form. There's no rules to this, but there are categorization purposes. Sounded more fancy. Let's click the plus button and let's pull up a plugin here. Let's think what plugin could go over top this track. Let's try a plugin called Toxic Biohazard. This is a really unique plugin here. And let's just go to presets to save some time. Let's go to leads and let's just click the first. Let's mess with some leads here. And what we want to do is go to this cog icon, just turn that volume down and let's hit Control L to send it to the mixer. This sound is a little too loud. So I'm just going to go through sounds and hear them in context as I play them. And again, if you want to play along with the beat, you could use your typing keyboard here. Just right click, hit reset, and then you could type on your QWERTY keyboard to actually play notes. So I'm going to hear these sounds in context. See how that kind of adds a little something? It adds more energy. I'm going to record that on the second half. And all I'm doing is using that 7-note process. Let me show you guys the notes I'm adding here, just so you understand what I'm playing here. So again, it's the root note. Go up 7 notes, you have a perfect fifth. We have a note above that called a sharp fifth, augmented fifth. That's all I'm playing here. Okay, now this sound, I have to play it a little ahead of the beat, so I can't quantize it like I could everything else. So that one's a little tricky because if I double click in here and I hit quantize, it will take the whole vibe away because it's a brass sound that it goes like, it takes time to get to the sound. So if I play the notes too late, it will be too delayed. Let's hit Alt Q and let's see what it sounds like. So let's say this is like a brass sound and it's very random. If you guys go to where it says piano roll options, go to edit and then discard lengths. It will make everything the same length. Let's hit Control to highlight these. Let's hit Alt and left click and make these smaller. So now we can control the length uniformly. So this to me is the top line expression. I'm using something that goes over top the beat and the goal is to add more energy. So this top line expression. We could also add texture sounds here. So there's no like hard-boiled rule. The real question is which frequency range does it rest in and which sounds is it competing with? Because this is also a rhythm. Okay, I'm playing a rhythm and a top line. I'm playing a rhythm and a top line expression. So these have to match or else they can clash with the rhythm that we have. Okay, so let's get to some mixing here because we're adding so many sounds. Let's go to the mixer. A better practice is to right click and find a blank mixer insert. Right click and let's call this beat mix. We're going to highlight, hit control, all the sounds. Hit control, left click, highlight all the sounds, and then right click this up arrow to route to this track only. So now all the sounds go to the beat mix before they go out to the master so that you guys can handle both vocals and beat. Okay. So let's mix the beat. So I'm assuming you guys like to record vocals too. Let's hit control. Let's highlight. We don't have any more sounds, but if we do add new sounds, we need to make sure that we right click and route to this track only for the beat mix. So on the beat mix, let's add a plugin called FruitySoft Clipper and let's turn the threshold to the left. If we want the sound more open, we're going to turn the threshold to the right. So I found a sweet spot somewhere in the middle. Now before the FruitySoft Clipper, what I'd like to do is control the volume. So you guys can use your mouse wheel to move this up and down. So this is important, the order of effects. So let's add a parametric EQ2 as the first plugin up top. And the left side is a gain knob. So we can turn stuff up or down. So I'm going to turn stuff up. Make sure we don't have any overlapping notes. Anytime we have overlapping notes in FL Studio, the volume gets really loud. As you guys just heard, it went like out of nowhere. So I got to figure out where we have an overlap potentially. So I guess that was just the kick and the 808 clashing there. Okay, so let's go all the way back and let's just feel the energy of the song and feel like, does it evolve or does it just kind of stay the same over time? So I just turned the kick down a little bit in the channel rack. Here's where it changes. All right, so let's mix these sounds a little bit. Let's go back to the mixer. Now for that, dun, 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 I'm going to add a plugin called Hyper Chorus. So it's a little more smeary. So if you see, if I take out some of these elements, let's ask, does the energy stay the same? So let's say I want the drums to change a little bit. Let's go here to where it says pattern 5, make this unique. And I want it to go like, so let's click in here, double click, it will open up the channel rack. We can open up the channel rack here, this button. Clicking everything wrong. Okay, let's do this again. Double click in the pattern 6, get out of the piano roll here, open up the channel rack here. So I wanted to go so let's add a couple hi-hats in here. Now this one I want to go all the way through. So let's right click, go to the piano roll, zoom in to where we want that glitch, change our snap to grid to a quarter beat in this case. And we're just going to right click to get rid of all the notes. We're going to make that one note longer, or just hit Control L, hit Alt U on your keyboard to change the time multiplier here to make a Chopin from Chop Squad DJ. Shout them. Now you have a hi-hat roll. Okay, so let's say we want that to happen every other pattern. Let's highlight this, hit Control Shift, left click. And this one too, let's go to the top left and let's go to select source pattern, pattern 6. So we'll change both of these patterns to the new pattern that we just created. Okay, so we could use some more melodic stuff in here to make it. So let's keep this in the top line expression column, but let's highlight everything. Let's hit Control B to latch paste. So now we're in a whole different section here. We could add a different synthetic sound. Now that you guys know all the like basic stuff, I'm just gonna kind of work a little bit faster here. Let's go to the channel rack. Let's add another plugin, and let's go to trying to think of a plugin that has a nice saw sound. Harmore is good, but it's a little convoluted. By default, it should be this. Actually, let's go to presets, default. You should get a saw sound like this. So you got to learn a little sound design for this plugin. It's not the easiest plugin to learn, and I don't blame you. Just turn up where it says unison order to about 7. It creates what's called a super saw, and then mess with the pitch knob. I like mine kind of sound metallic by pulling this in. Let's add a volume envelope here. Let's turn this on. And now I can kind of add this over top the track. So let's see if this even fits. Let's hit Control L, send it to the mixer. Remember, we need to route this to the beat mix. Let's left click on this track, right click and route to this track only. So now the saw sound is going to the beat mix. I'm just gonna play this in. It's like dun dun dun. So let's turn the metronome on if you guys ever get stuck. I just switched up the notes over time. In this case, let's get rid of the harmony because now we're trying to stack harmony. And this is why I said, when you think of it like puzzle pieces, making your arrangement becomes easier. So let's call this saw. Okay, so this is where a MIDI controller becomes your best friend because drawing that in would take a long time, guys. I'm not going to sit here and act like you could just draw that in with ease. Okay, so let's treat this as if it's a whole different part of the song. See what else we can kind of add over top. Let's see what this top line sounds like. Like it's too much going on. So let's try something soft. Let's right click, let's go to pattern, find first empty. Add another plugin here and let's try a different plugin. Let's try Toxic Biohazard is really good again. Let's just go through different sounds here. Let's go to their leads. Let's mess with these. So I want to add this over top of the track. Click this Kai icon, turn it down, hit Control L, send it to the mixer. remember we need to route it to the beat mix. So let's go to our mixer icon, left click, and then right click and route to this track only. So now it's going to the beat mix. And I'm just going to see what we can add over top of this. So let's say I want to loop it to create ideas. Let's hit Control, left click, and highlight the top bar here. And let's just play around until we find an idea. That's pretty dope. That sounds, let's record that in. Notice that little pitch bend I'm adding, that adds to the expression. Okay, so, you know, this is the advantage of having a MIDI controller. So what I added in, like, that little sound, that's called a pitch bend. And the way I do it is I bend my pitch wheel down first, and then I play the note, and then I let the pitch bend go. So it slides up to the note that I target. You know, if there's no really, there is a way to do it, but I'm not going to bore you guys to tears about how, because it's more complicated and it will confuse you even more if I show you guys how to do it in FL Studio, even if you don't have a MIDI controller. So to avoid that, we're just going to call this top line. And this is the whole vibe right here. All right, so now we're going to start getting into mixing here. Let's go all the way back. And now we can arrange this so that the energy makes sense. Because right away, if we just come in with the 808s, it's just too much energy. Let's pull the 808s over so it just masks that first part. Even this da-da-da-da-da-da, it's just too much movement. So let's right click, get rid of that. Start turning some sounds down. Everything can't be loud. So notice how I'm arranging this in pieces. Let's mix a little more. Let's add a fruity limiter here. Let's pull down let's turn up the ceiling. Turn down what's called the saturation. This adds a little more knock. Like there's too much movement, so let's take out the expression layer. All right, so some of the things you might do to kind of tighten up this song is just mix the individual sounds. But instead of that, we're just going to go to the beat mix here. So again, the first plugin here is the Parametric EQ2. We're boosting on the left side here, the master gain. I learned that from Lifestyle did it, this knob. I didn't even notice it was here, this fader. If you turn that up, 2.6 dB in this case. Fruity Soft Clipper, we have this threshold turned to the left. This creates more of a compressed sound. To the right gives you more of an open sound. So if your drums are pretty heavy, you could turn that to the right. In this case, I like it to the right because we're going into the next plugin here called a Fruity Limiter. And here's where we're going to add some of that grittiness to it. We're going to turn down what's called the saturator. Make sure you turn up your ceiling though. Then Could add some saturation here. So it did sound better with the soft clipper on this mode here. Then a little saturation here. So you don't have to worry about what we're doing. Just add another fruity limiter here. Let's go to compressor mode and let's turn the ratio to the left. This is called expansion. When you add volume instead of take it away. We're going to pull down the threshold here. What we're doing is adding more volume to the peaks so that we can feel the drums a little bit more. Let's up the sustain a little bit. If you get too many peaks, just up your sustain a little bit so it doesn't feed everything in. Also pull back the release time to about 80 milliseconds or so. So if I pull this ratio to the left, it will add more and more volume to these peaks. And that's when the audio becomes a little jumpy. Now let's add a fruity limiter as the final plug-in here, the final boss. We're gonna keep the ceiling at 0 here and just mess with the gain knob if you have to, or just leave it. Add an EQ to the saw sound and just mess with this high shelf here and just turn it down a little bit so it's not as bright. So now I'm just, adding the final touches to the beat mix. right, so that's how you guys do it. You guys will get the project files for free. Just go to busyworksbeats.com and sign up for free. And I'm going to put it in the FL Studio Beginners series folder for you guys so that you can have this for free. I want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys share with a friend so that they can get knowledge on how to make FL Studio. You guys can collab and make even more fire. All right, guys, you guys will get the drums with this project file as well and all the presets. All right, peace out, guys.